It works again. Okay. Well, hello. Welcome to our first family chats. This family chat, we're going to do a panel style where we're going to hear some of our friends that are adults that are deaf and hard of hearing. And they're going to share their lived experiences and a little bit more about themselves. So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Bailey, we will start with you. Oh, Bailey, I can't hear
At
you.
U of A Little Rock. Oh, um, can
I can hear
you
you.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, I'm Bailey Kitchell, and I am a current undergraduate student at U of A Little Rock, and I have bilateral sensory neural hearing loss. I wear one cochlear implant and one hearing aid.
Thank you. And let's see, Cindy, would you like to go next?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I hope you can see me too, because I can't see myself, so I don't know what happened.
Oh no.
Um, so what do you want to know about me? Just like my age? You want to know my age?
You can just do a brief
Okay.
introduction.
So okay, I'm Cindy. I've had hearing loss since I was one due to meningitis, and I'm pretty much answering the first question, but I wear a hearing aid in my left ear. I'm completely deaf in my right. I'm 45. I'm a mom as well. I have three kids, and they're all hearing. So thank you.
Thank you. Dana?
I'm Dana Crook. I'm deaf hard of hearing. I now have cochlear implants. I was a hearing aid wearer for about 30 years. And I have a son, Josh, that is 27, and he has hearing aids. He's had worn hearing aids since he was 2. Um, my sibling just got a second cochlear, and my dad was almost deaf. He wore hearing aids mainly for sound benefit. And I'm with Arkansas Hands and Voices as a mom, as a uh, deaf hard of hearing guide, Astra advocate, parent guide, whatever else. I'll wear whatever hat. I'm also a special ed teacher and gen ed teacher. So um, whatever hat you need, I'll put it on.
I love that. Thank you. Abby, would you like to share next?
Hey, I'm Abby Weatherly. I have bilateral cochlear implants. I was diagnosed with progressive hearing loss when I was 3. Started out with hearing aids until I was about 7 when I got my first cochlear. I am also a mom to 2 girls, which is why my camera's off because they're running around crazy. Um, and both of them are hearing as well.
Thank you. And they're adorable. All right, so let's get started. I think a lot of you already answered, but what assistive devices do you use in your home, if any? We'll go whoever wants to answer, or we can just go around in a circle.
I think it'll be efficient to keep the same order, so that way.
That's a
So
good idea.
Bailey, you can go first.
Okay. Bailey?
Um, so when I stay at the dorm, I have a special alarm clock. I think it's by Serene Alarm Systems. And so it has a very loud speaker and it flashes a very bright light in the morning.
Oh, you went on mute again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
So when I stay in the dorm, I have a alarm system. I think it's by Serene Alarm Systems. And so it has a very loud speaker as well as a flashing light in the morning. And a bed shaker to wake me up in the morning.
That's amazing. Dana? No, Cindy. That's the order we went.
All right, Angelina, keep the order right. No.
Mean.
Okay. Well, Bailey, you just opened my mind. I didn't even think about, the other little devices. I just thought in general, what I use for every day is I have a hearing aid in my left ear, and I also Bluetooth it with my mic. That's been a game changer for me, especially when I use it even for one-on-one. I'm actually using it right now with this laptop on Zoom call. It actually blocks out background noise. I use a feature on my phone. It's called Live Listen. So it acts as a mic, but it's not as high quality as the multi mic, which I can show you right here. It's the multi mic. You squeeze it. Um, Another thing I use a Caudzilla app to transcribe people's voices. I typically don't like to use that because it's not always accurate and it just comes up with some random words that not even matching what they're saying. But as far as an alarm, I use a vibrating bracelet. It's been a game changer. I used to have this big clunky thing I put in my pillow that vibrates the pillow, but it weighs like 15 pounds and I don't like carrying that when I'm travel. So I just have a bracelet that vibrates. And another thing I do is use a flashing light for the doorbell and also a flashing light on my phone when someone tries to call me. So, because I'm not able to hear the doorbell or the phone for the ringtone.
That's great. Thank you. Dana?
Well, I use a combination of all of that. At school, I use my microphone if we're in meetings, like a staff meeting or whatever. Um, I can use it at a restaurant and set it on a certain setting, and it'll keep the background noise down. I also use a bed shaker, but mine's not 15 pounds. Because I take mine, I tried the wrist thing, and that does not faze me a bit. I tried that. I slept through that. But I do use a bed shaker, and I take that with me. I use InnoCaption if I need something transcribed. Um, what else? Um, I don't know. I just use really, it depends on the setting as to what I use. So I just have a variety of stuff uh that I use depending on the setting.
Okay. Thank you. Abby, do you have anything to add?
No, but I think they pretty much said everything that I also use.
Those are some amazing. Some of them I haven't heard of. I didn't know about the bracelet. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, next question. What modes of communication have you used, and do you prefer one over the other? And if so, why? Bailey, we'll start with you again.
Okay, I'm sorry my camera's off right now,
You're
but
okay.
one my main mode of communication is speaking because I grew up in a household with speaking parents, but I currently am learning ASL at college. But because I grew up speaking majority of my life, I prefer that.
Okay. Cindy?
So I do ASL in English. I'm not fluent in ASL yet, but it's a goal that I'm trying to accomplish. In general, I prefer ASL. Why? Because my eyes are my strength. I can always rely on my eyes.
Mhm.
Um, but not everyone knows ASL. Like for example, in my immediate family at home, my kids are learning ASL, their father is learning ASL. So in order for them to become fluent, I turn off my voice so they can work on their receptive skills. Because if I talk and sign, they'll just rely on their ears and they won't improve. So in general, I like to do ASL, but if we're talking about something serious where no miscommunication can happen, that's where I use my hearing aid and the mic and be like, okay, we need to make sure there's no confusion. Like if we're talking about investments or, the kids want to express their feelings. So yeah, just to give it a little context, I'm not fluent in ASL. So like I was just telling my boss earlier, Angelina, that I'm in the middle where I use a service called Popo with an interpreter in between me and the business people. And this is just a season in my life until I become fluent. I couldn't understand what the rep was saying in English, and I couldn't understand the interpreter. So that is a very disempowering place to be. But with the intention, I know that I'm putting myself in a powerful place to be. So written English is pretty much a great safe bet because I can see that. I know how to read. I don't have to rely on devices that aren't 100% accessible. So anyway, long answer to your question. So
Thank you for that. Dana?
I do mainly spoken. I do sign, not as often as I used to. I do not consider myself fluent, uh, lack of practice. And everybody around me is hearing at school. Because I taught self-contained. So we used visuals and AAC devices. Um, because some of mine were nonverbal. And so I'm used to a lot of different kind of modes.
Nice. Abby?
I use like English speaking as my main source. We tried learning sign at one point and just never stuck with it. Um, I keep telling myself I'm eventually going to learn, but I have not done it yet.
Yeah, I understand. It's a commitment for sure. And I'm going to jump in before we go to the next question. If anyone has anything to add or any questions for anybody, just raise your hand and we can stop and answer those questions or just any extra input. We want it to feel, or I want it to feel more, we can have a conversation. It doesn't have to be flow. Rachel.
Hey, thank you. So because the first question was about equipment and technology, I was wondering in that same topic if any of you have ever used a smart pen to help with transcription, and if so, have you had success with that? Um, it was something that was recommended to us recently, and I just curious how accurate it is or how well it works.
Has anyone had that? I haven't.
I've
I
never
have not
heard of
had
it.
experience with that, but my daughter has a program that she uses for college that that records the lecture and it's transcripted. And like when she wants to go back and review, she can touch a part and it automatically goes back to that and starts, reading whatever part or whatever, it's pretty cool. And so I don't know if that's kind of similar or not. Um, so
I just wanted to piggyback off what you said. I use an app called Genio Notes, and it listens to what my teacher says. It transcribes it. It will summarize what they're saying and quiz me on what they gave a lecture over, and I can upload their slides to go along with the audio. So,
Oh, it's amazing.
How accurate is that? I'm curious. Baby.
what?
I asked how accurate it is.
Um, I would say it's pretty accurate, but granted, there's probably some glitches with it. And it is AI based, so it does warn you that it could have some mistakes in it. But I say it's pretty good.
I would also think the type of content that's being presented, if it's every day, not every day, but if it's more wording and usage that's, kind of familiar. Whereas there's some, like if it gets real technical and sciencey, then there might be some differences there. At least that's what I found.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so our next question, were you involved in your IEP meetings or in transition planning? Bailey.
I was involved in my IEP meetings. My mom made an effort to include me in eighth grade, but during that time, it was during the COVID pandemic, so I didn't go in person until I was in ninth grade. And once I got into high school, we would have an IEP meeting in the spring of every year, but we would also go the Friday before school would start, and I would meet with my teachers and provide a presentation saying, "This is who I am. These are the accommodations I need." And I think we would go over how to use my devices in school. So if they had questions, we could address it then.
Nice. Cindy?
That's awesome, Bailey. I'm glad you had that experience. I was not involved in anything until I was in college. That's when I got, student support with a note taker.
Dana?
I was never on an IEP. Um, I was involved. My son, he was involved, um, and he we worked with him and his. Of course, I work with kids at school, so
Mhm.
um, I've been to a lot of IEP meetings.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah.
Abby?
Yes, I was involved. I actually had a 504 as opposed to an IEP,
Mhm.
and I'm still not really sure what the difference is, but we made it a whole thing. I was involved from elementary school, and my mom would go to a local like bakery and get cookies, like an assortment of cookies, and we would go up there a couple weeks before school started to have the meeting, take the cookies and drinks and stuff, and kind of like Bailey said, we would tell like this is what my device is, this is how you use it, and kind of walk them through all of that. And then most of the time I would also go because with my 504 I had preferential seating.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the times my teachers would say, well, why don't you come and like basically pick out your seat before they would finish setting up the room. Um, but yeah, my mom had me involved with my meetings at a very early age.
I would imagine that she did. Michelle, I'm going to put you on the spot. Since the question came up, the difference between a 504 and IEP, can you briefly tell what those differences are?
So just like the way that I think about it, like for a quick processing point of view, um, so a 504 is accommodations that might be needed so that they can have access to the education. So that could be captioning, it could be the assistive technology or an AAC. Um, an IEP is more like what modifications to the curriculum can be made for the student. So it's modifying the curriculum versus gaining access to the curriculum. Does that make sense? Dana, would you back that up? Would as a teacher for just like a quick
It's more geared towards accommodations.
right, the 504.
Yeah, the 504 is geared more towards accommodations. The IEP does the overall, and the 504 does not have goals.
Mhm.
They do not. If a student or parents, if they expect goals, then you need to go the IEP
Mhm.
route. The
Because that's
504 is
modifying with the general goals.
right, right.
Sorry, didn't mean to overlap
Well,
that. Yeah.
it'll be with whatever gen ed. You're trying to accommodate them in the gen ed classroom. There's no, pull out or anything unless there's like nursing stuff. If there's some type of medical that the nurse has to be involved for, like ear checks or hearing aid checks, or if they're the person that they need to go to get batteries or there's a list of things in the 504. The IEP is basically for accommodations and or modifications, and there's goals, and it lists the areas the child is going to be served, whether it's in the classroom, push in, or pull out, or self-contained, homebound, etc.
Right. Good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, our next question. This one's a good one. Do you feel your choices with education were limited? Bailey.
I don't think my choices with education were limited because as a kid, I didn't necessarily have a say in general. Like my mom, she worked for the Department of Ed for a while, and so she would look at the school's data, and that's how we ended up picking our schools. But
Insider trading. Cindy.
I would definitely say that my education was not fully accessible. Even though I had accommodation, like I sat up front, I had an FM system, but there was a lot that I missed out on. And to be honest, even though I have a bachelor's degree and going back to school for my master's and PhD, there's a lot. I'm surprised that I had this education. And I think a lot of it was I did a lot of last minute studying, reviewing. Um, and so, yeah, I think it would have been helpful if I had a visual access, which is really an interpreter. Let me back up, a quality interpreter, because that makes a difference. And I was fluent in ASL. That would have led me to a better education. And but then that's just one piece. There's also the socialization, there's also the well-being, the mental health. So yeah, it's just a big panoramic view that we have to look at. But as far as education, it could have been 100% accessible, and it wasn't for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna.
Um, I wasn't tested for speech until I was in seventh grade. And but people have to realize that I started I started first grade when Public Law 94-142 started, was passed. So it took a while for that to filter up. So and it was more like they just came to the office, which I was working in, and said, we're looking for, and said my name, and I said, well, I'm at Lassiter, that's my maiden name, and he just looked at me and said, "You speak fine," and then went on. And that was the extent of, um, you know, I didn't really get accommodations, not even in college, really. Some professors were good about it. Some didn't care. At that time, there just wasn't enough in place. So I really encourage parents to look at those 504s and IEPs and see what's on there and what's going to move up with them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Provide I don't know, documentation, so to speak.
Definitely. Abby?
Um, no, I don't feel like my education was limited, but I'm from Conway, and so we have several different schools within Conway School District. Um, and I also have a mom who would not take no for an answer for certain things. And so, like, one of my middle schools didn't. We have four middle schools. One of them has sound build systems.
Yeah.
Each classroom, and only one school out of the four middle schools had them, and so we filled out a waiver and got me to go to that middle school as opposed to the one I was technically supposed to go to. Um, I also had a sound field that we had to fight to get in junior high that stayed with me from junior high to high school. Um, that I like we picked specific classrooms that it went into. So part of it was I had a good school district that had options for me, and then part of it was my mother would not take no for an answer.
Yes, I love that. Okay, our next question. I think this is my favorite question. Do you have a wonderful childhood memory that you would like to share with us?
Um, so when I was, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my mom, but when I was younger, like in preschool, I don't know what they were called, but they were like little beads and they would slide on my hearing aids and they were like flowers and stuff. And so all the kids would love it, thinking it was a earring rather than a hearing aid. And I loved it because I went to a school with uniforms and I didn't want to wear those things. I wanted pink and purple. That's it.
I love that. Cindy?
So for me, because even when I was with my family, when I'm in a group setting, I could not follow everybody. So my favorite memory was when I visited my dad. We were always He's very active, so we would ride bikes, we would go hiking, we would go fishing, we would play checkers, and I realized that it was a sense of connection and belonging because it was all nonverbal activities. Playing checkers didn't require English audio. But if we played a game that was like questionnaire, like I didn't play that. So those were my beautiful moments with just all the nonverbal activities. There's a sense of, connection and belonging. So.
Thank you. Dana?
I look back on my childhood and I don't have like one specific, but one thing that I can say is that my parents never limited me in any way. They always they always told me I can do whatever I wanted to. I can be whatever I wanted to be. And I didn't hear the word no or you can't until I got to school.
Mm.
And so that just made me kind of more determined, like I can do this, you know. And so, but I just have really, um, I have great memories of my parents encouraging me and stuff, um, and never making me feel like, um, less than, you know, whereas in other settings, sometimes they made you feel less than. And so that was a good thing that I was able to hold on to. So I think that makes me a better parent and a better teacher of kids with special needs. So anyway,
Thank you. Abby?
I was gonna say the same thing as Dana. I don't ever remember being told like, "No, you can't do this," or my like my diagnosis was going to that it was who I was as a person. It was always something that was used to educate. It was always something that was used in a good way. Um, I don't ever remember my parents saying no to me doing anything well until I started playing soccer. And then my mother did not want me to head the ball because I had a cochlear implant at that point and she was not a fan. Um, but that was really it. Even with schooling, like my parents were very much no, like you can do this, you can take the harder classes, you can sign up for that extracurricular. My deafness was never really like a limitation.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Our next question. How did your parents encourage you to become independent? Bailey.
Um, I think it started by my mom making me go to my IEP meetings because I had to learn how to advocate for myself, talk to my teachers, say this is what I need, and answer their questions about my hearing loss because at the end of the day, the person who has the hearing loss knows what they need the best. And I thank my mom for that because when I got to college, I've been put in so many situations where advocacy comes in handy, and you're in those situations where you can't just call mom right then. So you need to advocate for yourself. So,
Yes. Cindy.
Um, I live with my mom and my stepdad growing up mostly. So they didn't necessarily teach me independence. My mom did, like if she saw an article in the newspaper about a deaf actress or a deaf model or somebody who was deaf and they were successful, she would clip it and say, hey, you can just trying to show me that just because you're deaf doesn't mean you can't not do what you want to do. My stepdad, however, he was the opposite. He was very negative. He would tell me I couldn't do a lot of things because I was deaf. And so I guess in some way that forced me to become independent because I moved out at 18 to get away from that kind of environment. My dad, I don't really recall like linguistic conversation. And I think maybe part of it because, we didn't understand and we just kind of, we were very active. So you don't really talk and ride your bike. Like if you did, I wouldn't know because I was riding my bike and I couldn't hear. So that, that's the answer to my question.
Thank you. Dana.
Um, I want to preface what I'm going to say is my dad was almost deaf and he had a terrible childhood. Okay. So when they got my diagnosis, my dad cried and he's not a crier. Um, but I had such a wonderful, they from an early age. I didn't get hearing aids till I was in sixth grade because of the stigma back then. Um, they'd put me in really early now if it had been today's. But what's funny is when Josh was diagnosed, I was like, hey, you can do it. We got this, simply because of the way my parents raised me to be independent, speak out, be respectful. That was their big thing. Advocate for yourself, that you be respectful. So Josh had a totally different, um, whereas my dad had a bad experience. I had a wonderful childhood. So I was able to, you know, for Josh, um, let him be more independent and have self-advocacy early. So that's one of the things that we'd also need to remember in these families was the experience of the parents that they've had before that. So anyway, here we go.
Thank you. Abby?
I don't really remember a time where I wasn't being told to be independent. I also think that's a lot of my personality. Like I just am an independent person. Um, but I was always, let me just put it this way. My parents never raised me to realize, like I don't think I realized that deafness was considered a disability until I was probably in middle school. Um, and I don't know that, I don't feel like that's a normal thing, and I really don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it yeah, like I don't remember not being independent in a way, whether that was school or just around the house or advocating for myself. It was always talked about.
That's perfect. Rachel.
Great, thanks. So I'm wondering if you guys could speak to how that independence transferred outside of the home. We at our house with my 12-year-old, he pretty much manages his equipment on his own, and he manages it when he goes to a friend's house for a sleepover. He's now done his second like sleepaway camp. Last year he did Camp Aldersgate where there was a lot of support there. This summer, he did a sleepaway camp, and we had less success with him being independent with his equipment. So I would love to know just what worked for you guys on that transition from managing and being independent at home and transferring that outside of the home.
Um, I'm going to be honest, I still had like issues with my hearing aids and implant even in college. But I do remember like right before I moved to my dorm, my mom was trying to like rush to teach me the things I should have really understood how to do before, but I realized, oh, I actually need to know how to do it now. But I would say just continue to start early, and especially if they know how to change their batteries and do the basic troubleshooting at his age, that is a really good sign. I just say keep it up.
I'm curious, Rachel. What is the less success? Like, can you give me an example?
Yeah. So it was a big change from what we had last year. This year he was at a Boy Scout camp, so he had no power to charge his equipment. So we had set him up with full disposable batteries for his cochlear implant. We had a whole plan in place. We had practiced it at home, so he was comfortable with the new batteries. And I had told the camp nurse he is deaf, hard of hearing. He wears a hearing aid and a cochlear implant. He is independent in how it functions, but you might just need to help him if there's a problem. I picked him up 5 days later and I could tell he was not hearing me well. And one of his devices was not powering on at all. Everything was dead, nothing was working. And it was pretty evident that it had been not functioning for at least 2 days. And I never got a call or anything. So, um, and I think he was wearing his hearing aids, so he was getting sound through that side. And I think he was just so engrossed in the activities of the day, he just didn't think to go and say, hey, this isn't working. So, again, it was a teaching moment, but I just would love to hear, words of advice on how to teach through that or things we could do to just keep that from happening again.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like to me it's more of an awareness thing. I mean, I didn't know I was pretending to be hearing until 2 years ago, and I'm 45. So I think it's just, was it challenging for him not to be able to hear? Was it was it a problem for him as it is for you? Because you know what I'm saying? Like different perspectives. So did he? I guess my question is, what's your concern if he couldn't hear for a couple of days?
You, I think, are hitting the nail on the head, Cindy. Is I think for him, he didn't want the distraction. He was having so much fun. He didn't want anything to take away from, I think, the fun of it. And so I agree. I think for me, it bothers me a lot more than what it bothered him. Um,
Sound like
so
you can just relax and have some fun yourself.
so true.
I just want to add that also considering the context of the situation, if you're in a I know for me, there's been situations I was in an environment that was loud, active, and things. And after a while, that can get a little tiring. So maybe he thought it was more relaxing to take his hearing aids off. Because after a long day, it's like taking your shoes off sometimes. So the excitement can like just make you feel overwhelmed. So just having it off does help. But yeah.
I think part of it's also being a preteen boy. Because I know when Josh went to camp, um, you go to Aim High and everybody knows everything about everything at Aim High. Then he goes to another type of camp, and you have to sit, like you said, you went to the nurse and stuff. Um, maybe you can do a check-in. One time at dinner, he goes to check in with the nurse, and she can just check things. Nothing that interrupts his day, because obviously he was having the time of his life. And again, sometimes it bothers us parents more than it bothers them. And I can use a few moments of peace sometimes. I let these things hang down. So,
Thank you. That helps a lot, guys.
All right. So our final question for the night is, what advice do you have for a parent to a deaf and hard of hearing child? Bailey, we'll start with you.
Um, I would say support them. Because yes, anyone needs to learn how to be supportive and encourage themselves, but it really makes a difference to have someone who supports you and is willing to encourage you and be honest with them. So yeah.
Thank you. Cindy?
Um, I'm a parent myself. I have 3 kids, like I said earlier. I think y'all said you have a 17-year-old, a 5-year-old. So my advice is depending on your age, your child is younger, they don't have the awareness, they don't have a comparison to understand, what they can and can't hear. And they don't know how to communicate effectively. So my advice was just to observe your child, notice what makes them laugh. And what caused it? Was it a non-verbal thing or was it a linguistic laugh? Um, Another thing is, what did I write down? Let's see. Notice when they get frustrated. They're frustrated because they want to understand and they can't. And notice how they are one-on-one versus in a group setting. Because they're different from me. When I'm in one-on-one, I'm fine. But once you add that third person, it is like I ran a marathon in my head, trying to understand what people are saying, and I feel alone and empty. And so, but if they're older, like maybe 7, 8, you can have a conversation with them and ask them, hey, what's it like for you when we're having dinner together as a family? Because if you have a mom, dad, and a child, that's 3 people. Is it hard for you to follow along? Do you ever pretend to understand people? Because then you can give them the access they need. And it's not for everyone, because hearing loss is a big range. And also, like I was talking to Rachel, she's amazing. She's talking about, it all depends on, resources and time that families can contribute to their child. So it's really what is the best plan for your child based on what you have available. Because there's no right or wrong answer. It's very unique to each family. So that's my advice. And you can also ask Angelina if you want to contact me later, and I can be a deaf mentor. Or if you have questions, I'm happy to share. So thank you for everyone else for sharing, and I continue to listen to the rest of the people's answers.
Thank you, Cindy. Dana?
I definitely say support teaching advocacy. I do understand that sometimes your child's the first, um, and that can be hard. It can be hard because they're the first for you. They're the first in your family. Maybe they're the first that this teacher has had, this school has had, and that can be difficult. That's a big. Um, so I just say for them not to get discouraged because so many moments may be teaching moments for everybody at the table, and to use this as you know, a positive way for your child to see that they can pass that along. It's,
Thank you. Abby?
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said. I also think grace has to be given. Like Dana said, that child may be the first. I mean, speaking for myself, I am the first in my family to have hearing loss. And I also think you're treating your child still normally, just like you would any other child. Their deafness is not who they are as a person. It's just something that an attribute that they have and something that is going to define them, but it doesn't have to be everything. Um, like I was a soccer player. I had other things that I loved, and my deafness made it hard, but it wasn't defining everything about me. Um, and then, like I said, just grace to be given and knowing that they're going to be tired, and sometimes it you need to take the cochlear implants off.
Yes. Cindy.
I just want to piggyback what Abby said. It made me laugh because I'm in San Francisco right now at a National Association of the Deaf conference, and I met a deaf woman yesterday. She's also the only deaf person in the family. And so whenever her family introduced them to somebody, she goes, "I'm the normal one. The rest of them aren't normal." She was just being playful. So
I love that. Well, we still have a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to throw out?
I would like to ask the parent, what is been challenging for you as a hearing parent raising a deaf and hard of hearing child?
Oh, that's a great question. Any other parents would like to answer that?
Hi, it's Belinda. Um, so for me, it was knowing, okay, what do we got to do? You know, I'm a planner. What I, you know, what does this mean? Don't go on the internet. That's a scary, scary place. And then this calmness hit me and said, doesn't matter. We gonna make it. We got this. We got it, and we'll make it through. We'll figure it out, which is my favorite phrase. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't ever want her to think that I have all the answers because that's not true. Because that to a lot of kids will stifle their independence. I'll just go ask mom. So it's good to know, well, mama doesn't have all the answers, so I ain't gonna have all the
Yes.
answers. What? And that's, I don't know why you're talking to me. And so that's it's hard, but I was more worried, is there something else? For us, we were worried about her heart because she was born with 3 holes in her. So I'm like, I can deal with hearing. Tell me about this heart. And so I think you just take it day by day. And sometimes you miss stuff. Don't beat yourself up about it because you can't fix stuff or do anything or ask the question. You don't know which one to ask. Sometimes I had points where I'm like, I don't think I have sense enough to even figure out a question about this. They're going to be those days.
I love that. I will say for me, so my twins, I tease them because I was introduced to Arkansas Hands and Voices through our audiologist. And then I also was part of Arkansas Moms of Multiples. And I said, they caused me to need several support groups.
And then used to fix it.
But in reality, it was a learning curve for us because we were trying to learn how to teach them things that we didn't remember how to learn. Like, how did we even become familiar with whatever it was? And so we were lucky to have so many professionals around us and just kind of embracing us and teaching us the things that we didn't know. And so we were d deep diving into all things about ears, and we were able to use that to educate our children on the gaps. and play a huge role in learning the little things that compounded into the big things. Crystal, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
Uh, yeah, in response to the question, I mean, the other ladies said it too, like just taking everything as it comes. I'm very upfront when I have to advise people that Sydney's deaf, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm like, "Sorry for what? Like, you didn't make her deaf. We didn't make her deaf. She was just born that way." And unfortunately, she's our third. But yes, Sydney wanted to say hi to Miss Cindy. She goes, "Hi, Miss Cindy." Um, but it's very hard. And I feel like the older she gets, I feel like it's just getting a little bit harder. Which is why, like, I know I talked to you about us taking the next step to getting her the cochlear. We actually have an appointment on August 18th down in Little Rock to go and get, like, I guess, the consultation. We're doing all the stuff. But if it wasn't for moving out here to Arkansas, I don't think Sydney would be as advanced as she is now, regardless if we continued with just hearing aids or like went with the cochlear when she was younger. But paying attention to her is, I think, is what definitely has helped us, because when it comes to like the IEP and talking to all the teachers, like all the teachers know me at our school, like everyone knows Sydney. And it's just because I never realized just how exhausted y'all get from wearing hearing devices every day. And it was a struggle for so long to get Sydney to consistently wear her hearing aids, which is why I got her an interpreter. Well, she wears her hearing aids at school, but she has now learned how to like tune people out in her hearing aid. And she already has like no hearing in her left ear. And like her hearing in her right ear is like it's moderate to severe, so she can hear with her hearing aid just fine. But she can tune anyone out and not hear anything. And I'm like, how did you not hear that? But you can hear it when I open up a can of ginger ale. Like, oh, what is happening? So, like, there's just been a lot of like shock with her. And like, I never underestimate her and tell her that she cannot do something, because this girl is doing stuff to her 13-year-old sister needs to do, and her own 13-year-old sister don't do it. So, I think with her being so visual, it's good to remember that, because when you're deaf, you rely more on what you see and what's going on around you. And Sydney knows how to read a room, and she knows how to read people. And she's not even 8 yet. So the surprising things to like see with a deaf child, because I have had many things in my life, but a deaf child I did not think was going to be one of them. But she's opened us up to a new language and new people. And like, I love the community. We love going to all the Arkansas Hands and Voices stuff. And I've been trying to get her more acclimated with other deaf people so she can see, because she's embarrassed about signing in public. I will turn my voice off and I will just be going to town on her in public, because I don't want to yell at her and then have people looking at me because I'm yelling at her. And like, she's looking at me and like my hands are flying because I'm upset over something. And everyone's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "This is ASL. I'm telling my daughter she needs to take a chill pill." Literally, I spelled out pill. Take a chill pill and go sit down, because she was jumping around on a deer or something at the hospital. And but they go, "We've never seen ASL before." I'm like, "Well, I never really saw ASL either until she was born." and I had to start teaching myself. So it's it's a fun experience though, but it's not for the weak, especially if you want them to be like a normal child. So mainstreaming her and keeping her as regulated in school has been very helpful too, because I don't think I could have been able to homeschool her and her get the amount of knowledge that she currently has. It takes before you realize it's Lily.
Thank you.
Can I address the fear about the cochlears?
Sure.
Okay. Like you, we took a hearing loss when Bailey was 8, and it became apparent that we needed to get a cochlear implant. Well, that really kind of freaked me out. And I said, okay. And, back then, I don't know if they still make you go through candidacy. Rachel, I'm not sure. The genetics and all of that and the weight. I don't know if that still happens.
Yes,
But
that like we were technically on a list, but because of the advancement in her hearing loss this past year alone, and her losing most of her hearing this year in her left ear, they were already like prepared to have us do it. So we've been
okay.
on a list for like 3 years until we decided, but we have the genealogy stuff already. We're actually doing the MRI in a few weeks because it has to be sedated because we were dancing the chipmunks in the MRI machine.
Well, I'll tell you this. What happened is we went in, I think, for the meeting before the decision, and there was a child there who had gotten her cochlear implant and turned it on 2 weeks prior. And I asked her mom, and I said, would you do it again? And she said, yes, it has made a big difference to me. And that is where my mind said, that's it. Now, I was a little thrown off when they gave me that backpack. I thought, oh, what a nice backpack. Until I opened it up and realized it was parts. And I said, I think, okay, I bring these in when I come to children's. And they go, oh, no, you can fix it yourself. Oh, no. I don't have that sense. I don't. But you know what? You learn. We have a different normal. I bet each one of you have batteries in your pocket or your purse.
Dude, I have batteries in my car, in my purse, at my desk, in my bedroom. My husband has them at work. Like my daughter doesn't go to work very often, but the one time she did and he didn't have batteries, it was like the end of the world. So he's had a pack of batteries unopened at his work for like the longest time. But it'd be nice to get a rechargeable one because she's still going to have her batteries in this one, but her cochlear will be on her left ear.
And see, that's the thing. What we consider normal,
Mm-hmm.
paper clips. Yeah, we got paper clips for the hearing aid. Didn't clean it out when it gets stopped up. Well, or those little plastic things that come off
Little
tags
brush.
off of a. Okay, see what I'm saying? We're inventive geniuses now of what will work. And it makes you grow, and you don't think anything about it until somebody says something, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. It's a change for the better because you can help the next person on down.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Shaylease, go ahead.
No, I'm good. But thank you.
Make sure I remember the question was like, what's hard, right? Okay. I thought we've talked a lot. I want to make sure I'm answering appropriately. But I think for us, a big part of it has been that you guys kind of talked about being the first. Well, Rita's the first for us, for our entire family, both sides. other than, like getting older and needing hearing aids, like, um, which is a different type of hearing loss, but it is still something we've dealt with, in family. But he is the first. He's the first in our friend groups, family friends, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. We love what we've learned from him. But it is a little, I do worry about it being a little isolating for him.
Hmm.
Honestly, the hardest parts for me aren't about me, it's about what I can or can't do for him, because we don't have a lot of access to that community, especially not to the deaf community that specifically is in the five-ish age range in our area. So there's not very many times where we get to let him see himself in others as much. And as you guys know, well, some of you know, not all of you know, Reed is the first for a lot of things. He has a tracheostomy, he has a ventilator, um, he has dwarfism, an extremely rare type. Um, so we have a lot of firsts going on right now. But that's one where I feel like, yeah, there's this community out there, and I really want to make sure that he can access it when he's older. If I can't help him access it right now, at the very least, I want to make sure he can access it when he's older. And so, like, we've started, we chose a long time ago to do like total communication. So, like, we are learning ASL. He has a speech device. He just found his voice a little over a year ago, and he started using it a little bit. Um, and most of it's not understandable to people that aren't us. Um, Even to us, sometimes we're like, no, we need you to sign right now, please.
That's right.
But I
Um,
guess that leads me into my
like
second
what
part.
Gabby
That's
said,
hard.
right?
Is like I know that his language skills are limited by what we are able to learn and teach him, and that's hard. Um, Not that I don't think we're capable, but I know that you
I,
know.
thank you for sharing. What language? You talking about ASL? It's hard to learn ASL or a different language?
Well, just because we aren't fluent in it, it's hard for
Right.
us, and we want to make sure that he can be fluent, and we're working on it. Like we've been
Yeah.
working on it, but I mean, we've
Well,
been
I
working on it
like,
for about 5 years now,
yeah.
and
Well, I like what Abby, or I can't remember who said it, but to give yourself grace. Like me, I'm deaf myself and I really want to learn sign. But I made a decision recently to move to Austin. Why? Because Austin is number 4 largest deaf population. And I know not everyone can do that. And I've been studying it for a long time. So learning the vocabulary is part of the process. The other half is practicing immersion every day, kind of like Spanish. When people want to learn Spanish, where do you
Mhm.
go? You go to Spanish speaking neighborhood or Mexico or Spain, right? It's the same thing with ASL. And I know, where do you live in Arkansas? I'm curious.
We're in Central Arkansas, like the Austin. We're in Austin. It's by Cabot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like I was talking to the audiologist, it all depends on your resources. So my encouragement to you is just give yourself grace. All you can do is do the best you can. And this one thing you made me realize, one other advice I would like to share with families is that, if your child is the only deaf and hard of hearing person in school in the community, look into summer camps. Look, and I know he's 5, so you probably don't want to send him off alone. But they do family camp. Like I know in Aspen, they do like a family ASL immersion, or Kansas City, that's the closest one in Arkansas. They give priorities to people in Kansas, but they're willing to make other families join. And it's basically a 3 or 4 day program, and it's usually in June. And so it's just a way to make ASL fun, and you get to connect with other families. Same thing with
Yeah,
Arkansas.
that would be very interesting to go to. Thank you.
Well, Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for sharing. I appreciate everyone for being open and vulnerable. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. And one thing to not beat yourself up on not feeling fluent in ASL, remember it is a language and remember how long it took you to learn English.
I'm
So
still learning
because we
Exactly.
don't,
English.
yeah, because we don't learn it
Very
overnight,
true. Very true.
um, it's a we're on a journey.
I have
Both of
found
us, we
that
don't stop.
even doing like pigeon sign, like where you know the sign and you're talking, and that just helps them get the context of like what's happening so they know, oh, well, mom's talking about dinner, or oh, mom's talking about a snack, mom's talking about going to the park. Like that's what it started out with Sydney. A lot of it was just me finger spelling really fast because I can finger spell like nothing. The finger spelling is like a second language to me, but
Yeah, I'm,
having
I
to
think about it too much
sign,
and slow.
yeah, but just like even if you only know, like if you're talking to your son and it's only like 8 words and you only know the sign for 2 or 3 of those words, it's better to have the sign for 2 or 3 of those words so he can learn them and get the context for them and what you're trying to talk about than it is to just not do it at all.
Yeah. And we have done a lot of that. And there's been a couple times where I find myself like starting to just like make up a sign to go with the word. And I'm like, no, I need to go look that up.
Yes, we have a dictionary that we keep, and like I'll ask Sydney, I was like, what did Miss Stephanie say this sign was? Like, what was the sign that we learned? Was it this, miss? This is miss. Because I asked her, I said, how do you say I miss you? Because I was like, I miss you because she was gone for a while. And she
Yeah.
was like, yeah, it's miss. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So I go and open up the
Yeah.
book and I'm like, oh, you were right. He goes, my interpreter taught me. I was like, good. I'm glad that your interpreter is doing what she does not have to do to assist you.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw your thing about life print, Michelle. I use that so much. I have a like probably 50 tabs open and for words for that. Thank you guys.
Of course.
Keep in mind, um, you don't realize how good your child probably reads lips until you get them in the booth at Children's Hospital. And we had this happen, and we learned quickly that Bailey had to have the black that Jessica had to put the black thing over her mouth because Bailey was reading her
What have you done this
lips.
summer? What have you done this summer?
You know. And I
Um,
realized too that I have to close my eyes and hold my head down when we're in the booth. Because when she'd miss a word, I'd always go like a squirrel caught in a trap. And she'd say something else. I said, so after that, I start closing my eyes and hold my head down.
I'm sorry. I don't even breathe when I'm in the sound booth. Like I
Miss
just don't even
McHale like
breathe.
has her face. She goes, I know I have to put this up when Sydney comes in because she will lock eyes with her the whole time she's in there.
I love that. Well, we are over our time, so we are going to end here. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panel participants for sharing your story. I
Yeah.
feel like this was such a fruitful discussion, so thank you so much. Our next family chat is going to be on July 28th. And Dana is going to be sharing tips on how to introduce your child to an upcoming teacher or a caregiver or, whoever it might be that you need to introduce your child to. So we hope that you'll be able to join us next month for that family chat. And Rachel entered into the chat. Let me see. Thank you to the panel for being so honest and vulnerable with your
Mhm.
experiences. Wonderful chat. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much. And with that, have a wonderful 4th of July, a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.